So we've had our snack, we have done our thumbs, we've talked about our week downstairs. The next thing that I do is try to have an illustration to lead us into the passage or the topic that we are talking about. And so we talked about you're saved by grace through faith, and I was thinking how I was going to kind of illustrate this, and so we ended up with a straw, and Tom used physics to transfer water from it was a kind of science experiment. We built an Oreo wall to show the barrier that's between us and God, and then Jesus came and smashed the wall down. We have flooded the cafe, broken a mirror, and broken a table. My illustrations don't always go to plan there. But trying to think about something just to introduce what we're doing. And so I'm going to do that this morning. Not with any of these crazy ones, but I'm going to show you some holiday pictures of mine. So the first picture, I went on holiday at the start of the week with my family. We went to Italy. I am very fond of all the people in that picture there. We really, I do feel lucky that we get on very well, and we had a really great week. We had, and the videos are not working, but there were, yes, Tom, you can do that. We had a pool, and that top one is actually Fraser falling in the pool. It was very funny, and we actually threw Tom into the pool for his 16th birthday. It was a really brilliant week. But then once everybody else went home, the four of us went to Venice, and I had 24 hours to explore Venice, and I loved it. Oh my goodness, if you haven't been, I really loved it. And it was very hot, and there's so much to explore, but I just decided I was just going to walk and walk and walk and walk and walk. And at one point, the other three were like, we just need to cool down a bit. They went back to the apartment to the air conditioning, and I just kept going. And I came across this square. This is not my picture. It was a picture on the internet there. But I came across this campo, and in the corner, you can see at the back of it, there's a church. And it wasn't like really obvious that it was a church, and I didn't even really consciously make the decision to go to it, but I just walked across the square and opened the door and went into this church. It's called Santo Stefano. And in the church, I snuck this little picture that I didn't know if I was allowed to take pictures, so I kind of did it like this. If I'd known I was showing it to you, I'd have done a better job of taking the picture. But it was a beautiful church. And I went in, and I sat down, and I started praying. And I was praying for really good friends of ours, and they are a family, and their son is one of Tom's close friends, and he also does debating with Karis. And the dad, Ben, has terminal brain cancer, and the diagnosis is it does not look good. And as I was sitting there in the pews praying for them, I've prayed lots for them over the months. I've prayed for wisdom and for comfort and for guidance and for peace and for healing too. But as I was sitting in the pew, I was just really praying, please don't let him die soon, right? Just not soon. Like maybe not this year, maybe give them a little more time. And as I was sitting, I prayed and prayed all my words, and then I was like, oh yeah, I probably should stop talking and just listen a little bit. I often forget that when I'm praying, but I just stopped and I made the fatal flaw of opening my eyes because then I'm like, oh, look at this, instead of listening. And I was looking around the building, and it is truly a beautiful building. But on the way in, I'd seen a sign that said, this church was built in 1294. Right? It's a very, very, very old church. And I was looking at all the stonework, which was beautiful, and I glanced at the stones beside me, and because this is the way my brain works, I was like, I wonder what the stones would say if they could talk. I wonder what they would say. They have seen a lot. I discovered later that the church had been consecrated 6 times because of violent acts that had happened in the church over the hundreds of years. I was like, what would these stones say? And again, my brain going in a weird way, imagined one of the stones saying to the other stone, here's another human. Here they are again. Somebody coming in and asking God for somebody not to die. And another stone saying, yeah, how many people do you think we've seen over the 800 years come in and do this? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Hundreds of thousands? I don't know. And then the other stone saying, yeah, and do you know the funny thing? They're all dead. Almost everybody that's come in and prayed in this church for over 800 years is dead. And what is this human thinking they are doing? They just need to suck it up. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm like, is that what I'm meant to be listening to? Is that what I'm meant to be getting from this prayer time? And so I was like, I'm going to just spend a moment more listening. Is that the perspective that I needed to have in that moment? And I glanced up to the ceiling, and you can see, this is not my picture, this is a better picture, that the ceiling is beautiful. And it's in the shape of an upturned boat, because the people that built it were Venice boat builders, and so they just were like, we know how to build a boat, let's just turn it on its head and put it up there. And I was like, I wonder what God's perspective would be from the boat. Is God with the stones of going, just suck it up, everyone's going to die? Or does he have a different perspective? And I was like, I realize that so often I come and I'm like, God's like this little genie where I'm like, please do this and do this and do this, and I'm all focused down here. And I realized that what I needed to do was look up. And I needed to focus on what God's perspective was. And as I was thinking about this in the church, I was thinking about a video that I show to my S2s when we do the cosmological argument. And this is an argument that's proposed by Thomas Aquinas for the existence of God. And I show this video to start. Is it working? Oh, yes, good. And the video starts in the Himalayas, right, the highest point. We can turn the sound down on the video if you want. And the video zooms right out, as you'll see. And it's showing how insignificant we are. It's showing how small we are. It's showing how vast the universe is. And as I was sitting there in the church praying, I was aware that my perspective is so here. And what I needed to do was look up a bit. And I needed to think about who I was speaking to. I was speaking to Yahweh, and I'm going to mention that when I talk about the psalm. I'm speaking to this God that created the whole universe, that did it with just a word. He spoke it, and it came into being. And it's massive. And it's so vast. And we don't know, you'll see as the video keeps on, we have no idea what's out there, really. And where we are on this planet, and our affairs feel important, and they are important, and I'm going to come on to that. But as we start this morning, I want us to start with this zoomed out perspective of who it is that we are coming to worship this morning. The God who created all of this, who holds all of this together with the word, just with a word. We are coming to worship Almighty God this morning. The planets, the stars, he flung it all into existence. He controls it all. And so we're going to come and we're going to sing 2 songs of worship. So I encourage you, as if you're able to stand to sing, to look up. You don't need to physically do it, but just as you are singing, be aware of who it is that we are singing to. Let's stand. And so I left us zoomed out, right? And this is where we want to start. This is an important place to start, acknowledging who God is. But if we just stop there at the zoomed out big picture, that's not the God of Christianity, right? God is not just this being that created the world. He absolutely is that. But we are going to have to zoom right back in. We're going to have to go past all the quasars, past all the planets, past all the galaxies, past all their solar systems, because that is what God has done. He has not just left us as a creation and just said, there you go, on you go. He has zoomed right back in. And so we're going to do that with our psalm. But before we do that with the psalm, I want to talk to the kids very quickly for a moment. You have been amazing, little ones, at staying in for the service, because it's not just the youth that are staying in for the service. You all are used to going out there, and here you are sitting in with the grown-ups. And I asked Karis to make you a sheet to do this morning. And so Karis has, in fact, Tom, you can go off the video, but she has made a sheet for you to work on, and she's going to come up maybe and sit with you and do it. And it's going to help you to think about the passage that we're looking at today. So it says, God knows me and loved me. If you want to draw a picture of yourself in there, and then all your favourite things round about, and we'll come and look at it later. So she started one that looks very beautiful, but there you go. Karis has got that for you to do this morning. Because we're going to zoom in and look at the psalm that I have been given. And it's Psalm 139, which I imagine might be familiar to some of you. And if you ask the young people, they will tell you that I love my Hebrew and my Greek. And I am very nerdy about it, and I don't apologize for that. But we're going to pick up some of that today, so I hope you'll indulge me the way that they indulge me here. So Psalm 139, if you have a Bible or an app on your phone, do open it up. I have been on holiday this week, and so I've spent some time translating it for myself. And my translation is going to be on the screen, but I do encourage you to try and compare them and see. The other thing is that I'm used to teaching rather than preaching, and so I very much encourage my pupils to ask questions and interrupt me. It might be too awkward for you to do that, but if there's something I say and you're like, hold on, I don't understand that, probably somebody else is thinking that, but please do come at the end. I could talk about this for a long time. That is an accident. Translating it from there, these are the verse numbers that will not help you there. Okay, we can keep track of it. So, Psalm 139. And I'm just going to take maybe the next 15, 20 minutes, and we're just going to go through it and pick out some things that I think are really interesting when we zoom back in. So, Psalm 139, and the instructions at the beginning for the one directing. This is a David psalm. Was it written by David? We don't know. Not going into that. But the word for psalm in Hebrew is mizmor. 57 psalms are called a mizmor in the text. And this is a pointer to us because a mizmor is a poem set to music. So this is saying we're starting with poetry. Now, I don't know how many of you have read poetry. Tom was doing Norman McCaig poems for his English last year. And I realized, I loved them, but I realized that poetry is often ambiguous. And I think that that's what this is here, and we'll see this in here. So this is a poem that was written by somebody that's to be put to music there. And the first word in the Hebrew is Yahweh. And I'm not going to go through word by word, you will be delighted to know, but I am going to start and pause with Yahweh. This word is very, very holy. And so Jewish people will not ever say it. They won't ever say it. If they are reading the Hebrew text in the synagogue or by themselves and they come to this word, they will say Adonai instead. And it's that kind of jar right at the beginning that goes, they want to say Yahweh because they're reading it, but they pause and they say, no, it's too holy to say. I'm going to say Adonai. And in the time of the writing of the Bible, once a year, one person was allowed to say Yahweh. And that was the high priest who on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement, went into the Holy of Holies and was at that one moment allowed to utter this holy name because he'd gone through all the rituals, he'd gone through all the cleansing, he was able to be in this really special holy place, and there he was able to say Yahweh. And so in AD 70, when the temple was destroyed, they stopped saying the word. We don't even know how it's pronounced or how they pronounced it at that time. And I toyed with whether I would put it. In your text, it'll probably say Lord with a capitals, and that's the English way of saying this is who this is. But I think this is meant to stop us right at the beginning and to say, in the way that we've been saying up until now, this is who we're coming to, right? This poem is addressed to Yahweh, to the big God, Yahweh. You have examined me thoroughly and you know me. This is not a glance, right? Yahweh, the big zoomed out God, he has examined you thoroughly. And he knows you. It's like airport security, like this, right? So you can see. It's not talking physical here, it's talking he can see everything. Imagine that my sunglasses are magic, and I put them on, and I can see everything. I mean, not physical, I don't want to see that, but I can see your thoughts. I can see what you did last night. I can see where your panics are. Imagine, that would be terrible, wouldn't it? It would be terrible for me, but it would be terrible for you. But the text says that God, Yahweh, this big zoomed out God, he sees you, not the humanity as a whole, he sees you, and he has examined you thoroughly. And then because it's a poem, it goes on to expand it. It says, you know when I sit down, you know when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. My traveling and my resting you have fanned out. And this word is like winnowed, like he's scattered it out. You know, if you've got a kid, my kids didn't do this, but obviously, but if there was food that they didn't like and they would try and like hide it under the fork or hide it under the knife so that you wouldn't see it, right? This is the opposite of that. It's like all the food spread out all over the table. And he said, you've fanned it out. You've winnowed it all out. You can see everything here. You are familiar with all my ways of acting. The kind of habits that you have, the ways that you act, he sees it all. For there is not an utterance on my tongue, but you, Yahweh, know the whole of it. I haven't even started to speak, and Yahweh like, yep, know what's coming. Behind and before you secure me, you lay me, I'm going to come back to that, you lay the palm of your hand upon me. Right? Your translation might say, you lay your hand upon me. That could be that. It's not that. It's a very specific use of the word. You lay the palm of your hand upon me. This knowledge, incomprehensible. Extraordinary for me. It's inaccessibly high. I have no power to get it. I can't get it. And these first 6 verses are talking about God's knowledge that completely surrounds us. You are completely surrounded by God's knowledge. Now, does that terrify you? Does that bring you comfort? I think you can feel both. And I think it depends on where you are in your life as to what you feel. This word in verse 5, which is the 5th one, secure. This has a dual meaning in the Hebrew. The majority of the time in the Hebrew Bible is translated as besiege, a military siege. Behind and before you have besieged me, right? And so some of the commentators think that David is going, this freaks me out, right? You know everything. I do not feel comfortable with that. But then the palm of your hand, I don't know. And I feel like that's the beauty of poetry, right? Is that you could feel sometimes, this terrifies me, I hate this, I do not feel comfortable with this. And other times you can feel, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I'm so glad that you're holding me in the palm of my hand. I think the text allows you to have both of those responses, depending on where you are. But this knowledge is total. God knows everything. He is not just a zoomed out deity up in the sky that's left us all. He is zoomed right in. He sees you. He knows everything. Okay. The second set of verses. Where can I go from your spirit, and where can I flee from your face? Now, this word face, panim, is often translated as presence. It's used like 2,000 times in the Bible. It's exactly the same words that Jonah uses in Jonah 1:3 when Jonah says, I want to flee from God's presence. You've told me to go here. I'm going over here. If he'd just spoken to David or whoever wrote the psalm, he'd have said, there's no point, mate. There's no point. If I soar to the sky, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, that's that kind of Jewish underworld, behold you. And it's like, I love this idea. It's like going, oh, you're here too. Like, seriously, you're everywhere. If I lift up on the wings of the dawn, that's the kind of in the east with the sun rising, or settle down at the furthest point of the sea, that's the west where the sun sets, all through the course of the day, you're there. Even there, your hand will guide me. Your right hand will grasp me. And this is talking about God's presence. So the first bit was his knowledge. He knows everything. This is just he is everywhere. Right? You cannot go anywhere that he is not there. Up, down, left, right, wherever. God is there. And then he says, I like the idea of the psalmist going, hold on, I have an idea where he might not be. If I say, surely darkness will crush me, and the night will become light for me, even darkness is not dark for you. The night is as bright as the day. Darkness is as light. And this word for darkness is not physical darkness. It's that crushing, mental, external darkness that's coming. It's what people, our friends that are like can sometimes feel, that like darkness that's crushing on you. Now, your translation might say covered. It's not covered. Like covered with a blanket is quite nice. This word, totally geeked out on this word this week. The word is crush, and it's used 4 times in the whole of the Bible. Here, in Job, to talk about the crushing that Job felt there, and twice in Genesis 3:15, which, if you remember Glenn's series on Genesis, was the proto-evangelion, is called in Greek, the first gospel, where Eve's offspring are going to crush the serpent. right? That's the word that's used. This word is never used in a covering with a nice blanket kind of way. This word is always forceful, it's always violent, it's always completely oppressive. So it says, even if I say darkness, mental, internal, external darkness, surely God's not going to be there when the worst thing happens. Surely the darkness is so dark and I'm so crushed by it that he will not be there. And the psalmist goes, even there, he's there. When the worst thing happens, he's there. Everywhere is his presence. And I feel like if the psalmist at the beginning was thinking, oh, this is a bit freaky, by this stage he's like, oh, actually, that's comforting, right? When the worst thing happens, even there, his presence is with me. Indeed, you have formed my kidneys. You have formed my kidneys. That's the actual word in Hebrew. You have formed my kidneys. And it could either mean, it's either a synecdoche, which means it represents the whole. So your translation might say my innermost parts. So your kidneys represent the whole of this. Or sometimes in Hebrew, kidneys are referred to as your conscience because they're deep. I don't know what the person was thinking here. Indeed, you have formed my kidneys, or my inner self. You covered me in my mother's womb. This is a kind of wove a screen, is the kind of imagery there. I praise you. I am astonishingly distinct. I had fun with those words this week as well. I am astonishingly distinct. Fearfully and wonderfully made might be what you've heard. Yes, I just think it's not strong enough for what the Hebrew's trying to say. You are astonishingly distinct. Marvelous is your work. My inner being deeply knows it. My bones were not hidden from you when I was made in a secret place, embroidered in the depths of the earth. Now, I knitted this scarf once for Jonathan. He obviously thought he was much taller or something than he actually is. I think I was just so proud that I managed to start it and then just kept going, didn't know when to stop. Doesn't wear it much. There, but I knit this. I was very proud. That was just when we first got married. In your text, it might say he knit you in the womb. That is not talking about this, right? This is kind of average knitting here. I'm sure many of you could knit better than that. The actual word is embroidered, and the only other times it's used in the Bible is to talk about the master weaver embroidering the screen for the tabernacle and the sash for the priest. So this word is, and it describes that they took the blue and the scarlet and the purple, the best threads, and it was embroidered in to make this amazingly special piece of kind of furniture for the tabernacle. You, each one of you, was embroidered, right, by a master weaver who took the finest threads and wove them together to make you astonishingly distinct. Right? If that doesn't make you go, whoa, you're astonishingly distinct. And you were embroidered in the depths of the earth. That's a poetic term for the womb. My shapeless mass, the word is golem. I love it. The word is golem. My shapeless mass your eyes saw. And in your book, all the days formed for me were recorded when I hadn't even had one. That is the most obscure Hebrew. Who knows what it means? I mean, it's very hard to translate that bit. As for me, how precious are your thoughts, O God, how vast their number. If I counted them, there would be much more than sand. I awake, and I am still with you. And I'm not sure about this translation of this, but elsewhere in the Bible, when it says I awake, it's talking about from death. And I like that. I like the idea that it's saying from right when you were a shapeless mass, a golem, right from before you even had bones formed, all the way to the end. When you awake after death, behold, Yahweh is there. All the way through, he is there. His power is at work in you. And so it says, God knows everything. God's presence is everywhere. You are astonishingly distinct. And he's with you from the very beginning, all the way to the very end there. And then the psalmist does a little turn, and I was like, why has he done this? I don't know why he's done it. If only, O God, you would slay the wicked, and the men of blood, may they turn aside from me. who speak of you with evil purpose, your enemies who lift up falsehood. Do I not hate those who hate you, Yahweh? Those who rise up against you, I loathe. With utmost hatred, I hate them. They have become enemies to me. And I'm like, it kind of changes the tone of the psalm a little bit here. But I wonder if, I don't know, this is just me guessing, that he says, do you know what, God knows everything. He is everywhere. He's fully powerful. Why do sucky things still happen? Right? If God knows all this and he has all this power, why are there still people killing other people? I hate it, is what the psalmist is saying. And I get on board with that feeling, right? When I'm sitting in that church praying for Ben, I'm like, I hate this. It's not the way it's supposed to be. Why are you not? You have the power, yeah. Maybe that's what the psalmist is saying here. But then he comes back and he says, search me, O God. Right? He's coming back full circle. This term here is like a mining term. It's like, don't just glance at me, search me. And it's an invitation, it's not a command. It's saying to God, put those glasses on. I'm okay with it. I'll stand like this. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me, and that's a kind of refining test. It's not a tricking test. Refine me and know my anxious thoughts. That word there, it's a cool word for anxious thoughts. It literally means thoughts that tear me apart, right? It's not just like, oh, I wonder what we'll have for dinner. This is like, sir, I am laying it all before you. Nothing hidden. All the thoughts that tear me apart, that keep me awake, that I'm thinking about in the church in Venice, all these things, we're saying, here. No, I'm not hiding from you. Search me and know me. See if there's a grievous way in me. Again, hard to translate. See if there's any kind of sorrow or pain. And I'm laying it all out. Look at me. See me. And then lead me in the way that you would have me go. Lead me in the way that you can. How does the psalmist get there? From going, he's everywhere, to going, yeah, I'm all here. And I wonder if the psalmist caught a glimpse of something that we can see a bit clearer because of Jesus. That the psalmist sees that God loves him, Yahweh loves him all the way. He sees him all the way to the bottom, sees everything, and yet loves him all the way to the top. There's nothing hidden. It's not like, I trick God into liking me because I'm nice when I come to church. He sees it all. He sees the 3 a.m. anxious thoughts. And he goes, man, you're astonishing. You're astonishingly distinct. A few years ago, I was praying, and you'll get a sense of how I pray because I use my imagination a lot. It's just what I do. And I'd obviously, this was years and years ago, I'd obviously been at a talk about the throne room. And so I was praying and I was imagining myself in the throne room. And it was massive, just in case you wondered how big the throne room is. And I could imagine that God was sitting on the throne and Jesus was standing at his right-hand side. And there I am, and I was we're like Dorothy, where you are I was like way back on the right-hand side. And there was like hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many people were in this throne room praying there. And I was imagining, I was like, this is cool. This is like all the people in the world that are praying just now are like in this space with me. And like people kept disappearing as they like went off and stopped praying. I was like, quite cool. And there were like lots of different languages and accents. And I was just kind of soaking up the whole atmosphere. And again, this is all just in my head. I was there praying. And I heard what I knew in my mind was Jesus speaking to God. It wasn't like broadcast, but I just heard it. And he said, do you see over there? That's Morven. And I was like, how many other people called Morven do you think are praying at this moment? That's where my brain went. And then I was like, maybe it's me. Maybe he's talking about me. And then it said, wow, she's amazing. I'm like, and he says, I died for her. She was so worth it. And he doesn't just say about me. He says about all of you. He looks at you and he goes, Elaine, I knocked out the park with her. Astonishingly distinct. I see her all the way to the bottom, and I love her all the way to the top. There's nothing you can do. And that's the comfort that I think this psalm brings us. And that's when I'm praying for Ben, praying for the family. Like, I do not know what's going to happen. I don't know who's going to die this year. But I do know that God sees them all the way to the bottom, loves them all the way to the top. And if we get to this bit, he will lead him. He will lead us. And behold, when we awake, Yahweh, He's going to be there. Let's sing. Stand up if you're able.